Okay, so let's start animation from scratch. Let's say you don't have any retargeting, any mocap, you just want to get your character and animate using the controllers. So right click here, go animation and level sequence. In the level sequence, you get your character and you drag and drop in here. If you just imported the skeletal mesh, nothing will come out of here. So basically you need to add the contour rig. So you go in track, contour rig, asset based contour rig, and that will be the rig that you created for the character. So there it is. It's should be all working. Uh, One thing I like to do in here is if you want, you can display hierarchy, which is the joints. Uh, you can hide the controllers, so if you're playing your animation, maybe it's easier to hide. Um, and I also like to select here, only select rig controls, because if you uncheck that, you select all the geometry of the scene and the backgrounds and everything. So you want to just be selecting the controls. Here are the spaces which I've covered in another area, another class. And then if you open these, you have access to all the controllers in here. And then if you open them, you have all the transforms from each controller. To create a keyframe, you press S and then it creates a keyframe on everything. Or you can come here and use these ones here. So let's say if I translate it a little bit and I just want the location to have a keyframe, I'll check in here and oh, yeah, it's checking everything, probably a bug. But yeah, I could easily just delete the keyframes I don't need, for example. It would still work. Also here you have an animation curve, which works like as you would expect, with similar to the other softwares. If you press S, you can see the keyframe here, and then if you play with the curve, you can check the animation. What else? One thing I find it quite helpful is adding a filter for animated tracks. So instead of seeing all the controllers now, I'm just seeing the controllers that have keyframes on it, which is in this case is just one. But let's say if I added a keyframe on here, so I'm pressing S, then I have also this controller appearing here in my filter. An overview about the sequencer is that you can here's where your animation starts and here's where your animation finishes. You can also play with this scroll down here to see, zoom in and out. You can also go to a specific keyframe if you just type in here. Here's where you change the FPS of the scene. And here you can save. Basically, any changes you make will be saved on this file here, and you can just rename it to, let's say, Buzz Animation Test. So yeah, if you want to animate, let's say I'm going to switch the FK and IK just as an example. So if I go here and let me remove these keyframes, I can just delete. They all disappear because I'm filtering for animated tracks. So if I keyframe this in this position, then on frame 15, I want it to be in here. Press S. I also want to activate the automatic pole vector. So pole vector, right leg pole vector. I can check in here, and I can also add a keyframe for that. So now it's on all the time. And then let's say I want to switch here, I want to switch to FK. So if I filter for switch, I can get a right leg IKFK switch. And then first I'm going to keyframe this as it is. And then I'm going to move one. It's showing is under leg settings, and then it's showing my controllers here. So yeah, so I move it one frame and then I'm changing it to off. So FK, keyframe. So it stays in the same position but switching the type. Then let's say if I want from here, I will keyframe this FK control and then here I will roll up. So hopefully that should work. Yeah. This flickering thing is just a visualization issue, but yeah, it should be all working. Like if your pose and the position is correct, then it should be fine. Yeah. That's it. So one thing I've created here is kind of a picker thing. So basically, if you select the right leg, you can have access to the. Let me uncheck this. So you can have access to the other settings. So for example, leg stretch. So let's go to this leg and really pull it. It's not going to work because this character, of course, is not supposed to really stretch. But let's say. So if I turn on leg stretch, yeah, you can see the leg goes a little bit further. I think there is a limit of 1.25, so you will stretch, but not much. Yeah, so basically you just animate using keyframes, and yeah, you can, for example, here, as we show this controller, you just translate the controller and the animation will play. Same for the helmet. And then another cool thing that you can find in here is these poses. So I think it's quite helpful for facial. So for example, let's say I want to pose of jaw closed and jaw open. So if I click here and I have just the jaw controller selected, I can actually, let me just delete this. So I have the jaw controller selected and I click on create pose. I'll call jaw closed. Great. And then I'll open the jaw and then I'll create another pose called jaw open. So now if I just click on one or the other, they will flick. And then I can also select the controls. So automatically, let me just select something else. Select controls will bring me the controls I was selecting when I created this. And I can then, for example, create keyframes. So a keyframe in here, I move a little bit. I use this pose, select and keyframe here. Oops. Select control. Oh, I keep clicking on the wrong thing. Yes. Jaw open, keyframe. There you go. So then you have your animation. And yeah, it's pretty helpful. You can do, you know, all sorts of poses and just store all of them here. And then yeah, you can mirror, you can play around with this, and it's super friendly to use. There are the items here. The ones that I think is quite nice is the trails. So let's see if we have. Let's go back in here. This one. So if I click on this controller, then I go trails, and then I press show trail. It shows the movement that I'm doing. So of course, this is just a straight line, but I could go here in the middle, for example, and create another keyframe. You need to actually unhide the trail, go down, keyframe, and then show trails, and now it's more kind of like a curve. And Yeah, from these tools, these are the ones that I find it a bit the ones that are most helpful.